This is part 4 of the Centrex Quirks of 1983. Portions of these recordings were sent to Bell Labs to get the problems fixed, and none of these things work today. In what follows, funny mode is used in combination with ad infinitum to allow the tape recorder to catch the sound of an ad infinitum stack being built up, but from a unique perspective. The tape recorder will be placed on the line that is making the incoming call waiting call. This is the call which makes it possible to keep getting recall dial tones over and over. And of course that's what makes it possible to build one of these stacks in the first place. Normally, this call waiting call would not be able to hear very much as a stack was being built. But this time I invoke funny mode so as to cause bridge 0, the call hold bridge, to conference inappropriately. Now we can hear the stack being built up not from the perspective of the line doing the dialing, but instead from the perspective of bridge 0, which keeps getting moved to the top of the stack as each call is added. Thus, we will not hear any recall dial tones or dialing, but we will hear each new call starting to go through right after the number is dialed. Now once the stack has been built, I'll then demonstrate that an entire stack could be transferred between one station in the Centrex and another.
So here's the exact procedure. You are going to call me. The line you're on is going to call me on another Centrex line. And at that time, that line will be talking to Weathercron, which is a time number that just answers, talks a while, and hangs up. When I get the beep from you, I'm going to go answer you. And then I'm going to stay connected to you for a little while, and eventually I'll flash and get a dial tone. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to flash and get that dial tone before the call to Weathercron times out. But I will dial a high tone number in New York after it times out. So I get the dial tone before the timeout, dial the number after the timeout. Alright, Weathercron is about to time out, so I'll get my dial tone. Hi, I just dialed the number in New York. But I waited for that little tick that you heard, and that I didn't hear, by the way. That little tick corresponded to Weathercron timing out. And now, you, having been the call waiting call, are on my second theoretical line, and I am on my first theoretical line. Now, I'm sure you know what happens when you have an incoming call on your second theoretical line. That's right, you get to dial numbers forever. So, what I'm going to do now is just flash and dial a number, flash and dial a number, flash and dial a number, and through the wonder of this phenomenon, funny mode, you'll get to hear and listen in on what's happening with the stack as I build the stack. So here goes.
The number for repair service has been changed.
Welcome, friend, to Dial a Prayer, an outreach of Atlanta Unity Church. My name is Jay.
Good morning. Southern Bell's executives make millions.
The number for repair service has been changed. The recording
We're sorry. You have reached a number that is...
Good morning. Vote no on measured telephone.
All right, so now I've got quite a stack. You got to witness me building the stack. Now what I'm going to do is, you are going to hang up. Oh, wait a minute, I can't do that yet. Let me see if I can get you. Let me try dialing you. Oh, good, you're listening to your own ring. How do you like that? That's your phone ringing. Isn't that unique? Well, I guess it isn't really, because I could have three-wayed it. Anyway, I'm going to have you hang up now. And now you've answered this call. This call is at the top of the stack, of course. And I'm now going to I'm going to transfer the stack to you and let you flash down back through it. So when I hang up, you will get the stack. And then you're going to flash back through it until it's all gone.
is no longer in service. And dial again or refer to your directory.
The new number is 780-4600.
We're sorry. You have reached the number
has been changed. The new number for customers is 780-4622.
Recording. We're sorry. You have reached the number or is no longer in service. Please dial again or refer to your directory for an alternate list.
780-4600. The number for repair service.
And now we're down to the first call, and of course, when I flash now, I'll just get a three-way dial tone.
This next example is the same thing, except that I tried to use only local trunks as the members of the stack. This made two differences compared with the last one. First, since each of the items I'm adding is within my CO, there will be no delay for outpulsing, so you'll hear quick changes from one thing to another as the stack is being built. Second, because these intra-office trunks all time out and drop off automatically, the bridges will drop by themselves once you start flashing back down through the stack.
Now I'm going to repeat the same procedure, except this time the members of the stack will all be things in my office.
Okay, you've beeped in on me. Actually, the first thing I dial is going to be something out of the office, just to put a solid base on the thing. I better get my dial tone. All right. Okay, now I'm going to do some very, very fast dialing.
We're sorry.
something that, again, is not in my office. So, let me transfer the stack to you. Alrighty, that's your phone ringing. Now you just hang up. There you go. Alright, now I'm going to hang up and give you the stack, and since all of those things I dialed in the middle there were trunks that are going to time out, I believe, it should all fall off very quickly, and you should fall all the way down to the high tone.
Oops, looks like I accidentally called a PBX ring in the middle of that stack, and this doesn't time out, so this is going to stay until I flash the hook twice. The first time I flash the hook, you're going to hear the high tone down at the bottom of the stack. It's not going to be very loud because there are a lot of unused three-way bridges between here and there. When I flash the hook again, you'll hear the unused three-way calling bridges dropping out one by one, the high tone getting louder and louder and louder and louder until we're left with just the high tone at full volume.
Well, there was a PBX ring in the middle of it, but that just made it more interesting.
Ad infinitum, as wonderful as it was, had a serious drawback, and that was that if you built a stack containing calls that were stable, that is, a busy signal, or an off-hook termination, or anything that was not going to eventually answer and hang up, you had to make darn sure that the stack was deconstructed by dropping the incoming call and then flashing carefully back through it to remove all the calls you'd made. If you just hung up the phone when some of the members of the stack were stable calls, that is, not living people or not time announcements that were going to talk a while and hang up, but say busy signals or recordings and things like that, if you just hung up on it while those things were in the stack, under certain conditions, the trunks would just stay up indefinitely. This would literally take trunks out of service. Telephone company switchmen would finally find the problem and clear it themselves, but it had to be cleared manually. Now, Les and I had a very strong respect for the network, and the idea of trunks being taken out of service like that gave us the creeps, especially since Les was a communications consultant for the state, and he saw that with the phones in his Centrex getting call waiting, this was going to happen from time to time. The circuits that it was his responsibility to maintain would end up stuck, thus degrading the quality of service that he could provide. For this reason, in 1983, we realized early on that we were going to have to tell Bell Labs about this. Here's a section of the conversation with Ben when we were talking about this.
So what do you mean you got to report it?
Just to give you an example, okay? Suppose I was talking to you, right?
What?
I had a call waiting beep, but I had the phone down. I didn't hear it. So I said, oh, okay, let's try to call so-and-so in Massachusetts now. And I try to add on the number, I get a busy signal. So I flash again, get a dial tone, try it again, and it's busy, and I try repeatedly. And I've done it 6 or 7 times, and then I can't find you, so I hang up my phone. Well, all those long-distance calls stay up. It's so... I would not trust someone to play with my phone right now.
No, that is pretty bad.
To us, this was a very serious matter, but Bell Labs didn't seem to agree. We reported it in mid-1983, and when I left Atlanta in the middle of 1988, it still had not been corrected. I believe it was in either 1989 or 1990, when I had long left Atlanta and no longer had Centrex at my home, that I heard that they had finally done a little kludge to fix it. So for all the hand-wringing that Les and I did about this problem, Bell Labs apparently just didn't think it was a big deal. Now what follows is a recording made 4 years after we told Bell Labs all they needed to know to make this impossible. It all started when I came home and found that my roommate Clay, who was very much into BBSs, had taken a bunch of people from the BBS that he normally participated in and built a large ad infinitum conference with all the people on it. Now, he didn't record when he did it, so when I came home, the conference was already in progress. But of course, I got the tape out then. It turns out that this is the last tape in my collection of historical network recordings. That is, until the Nantes-Quebec afterthought.
This is August 30th, 1987. Unfortunately, this tape recorder is not erasing properly, but it's all I've got. We're doing a voice conference with people from the computer bulletin board conference, and we're using the ad infinitum feature.
Where's the dryer?
The water bed and nobody to use it.
I'm on my water bed.
It's freaking out the
Just some doctor.
telephone.
I'm curious. Who else is all around now?
Me.
Nobody.
Me.
It's me.
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 Fantasia.
And myself.
Garfield.
Garfield.
Me, myself, and I.
Me, yeah, cute. Me, myself. And I. It's a multiple
Who is it,
personality.
please?
Who is who? Fantasia.
It's on TV.
Oh, that's Fantasia.
Huh?
Hi.
A lot of these folks, by the way, had never even heard each other's voices on the phone until this particular night. They all knew each other in the chat mode. Once the tape was running, I did catch the sound of Clay adding another person to the conference, and this actually illustrates the process that has to be repeated over and over to build it in the first place. What you'll hear here is Clay getting a call waiting beep. That enables him to dial another phone number, which he does. Sometime after the phone is ringing, the call waiting drops. That enables him to flash his hook to bring this new person into the conference.
What if we get you wrong?
Doc. When you coming north?
Hi,
Hi.
Lynn.
Yes.
Okay, you want to be added into the conference?
I guess, is this... Oh, Clay,
Yeah,
hi.
Clay, hi.
How did you do this?
Oh, well, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm
Okay,
just kind
I'm
of
curious.
busy. Can I add you in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here you go.
Dad thinks I went to bed 30
That voice sounded
I'm
familiar.
being bad right now.
We have a new caller.
We do?
Hello?
Yeah,
Who's that?
Cleo.
Cleo.
Hi, who do I have? This is chaos, I'm telling you.
Cleo.
Hey, Cleo.
Hey, Cleo.
Yo, Cleo.
Yo, Cleo.
Roll call. I need roll call. Who we got?
Quack, quack, Cleo.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Wait, no, tell me who you are.
No, let her guess. That'll be fun.
Oh, God.
Mystery caller.
I can't tell
If you can
anybody.
guess our names within 30 seconds.
Oh, no. Wait, who's Dave? Where's Dave? Hello?
Hello.
Hey, Cleo.
Hi, it's a girl.
Hey, Cleo.
Hi, I'm a girl.
While it was possible for anyone to hang up for 10 seconds and get off the conference by themselves,
Bye.
Who just left?
the only way we could disconnect people was to start at the top, that is, the most recently added person, and take them off one by one from the top back down. Now, this conference was so large that it was actually difficult for people at the bottom of the stack, that is, the ones added early on, to hear those at the top of the stack, the ones that were added most recently. The participants can actually tell that something is funny about the conference.
Confusing.
I want to know, how are people talking to everybody?
Good question.
That's phony.
I mean, it's like going down the line.
This conference really does have a linear structure. The people who were called first are down at one end of this long stack of concatenated three-way calling bridges, and the more recent additions to the conference are all the way at the other end, and it's hard for those two groups of people to hear each other. People who are in the middle can hear everyone pretty much about the same, and everyone can hear them about the same. And there really are some people who are right next door to others.
Somebody sounds like they're right next door to me. Who's that?
Later that evening, it did become necessary to set the conference up all over again, and this time the tape recorder was running. In addition, the problem of the conference inherently being a long, linear string of people, where the early folks couldn't hear the later folks, is addressed, because I'm using a telephone company loop around to effectively tie the bottom to the top. So it's a big circle instead of a straight line. The way that's done is that the first participant in the conference, instead of being a person, is one side of the telephone company loop around. That's two numbers that tie together and you can talk between them. So the first call is to the loop around, a silent termination in this case. The second call is to the first participant in the conference, who is a young blind phone freak named Sarge, who has very good ears.
By the way, that was a 5, y'all. That was an 8.
Too soon. I think so.
Who was the 8 already? I mean, really.
Well, let's cut that out.
Yeah.
That was a 0. Will you quit?
Anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is call the loop around. That just answers silently. The next thing I'll do is use regular three-way calling to add on Sarge, who notices all the sounds, including the click of my Centrex line responding to his answer. And that's why he wanted to be the first participant this time, because he wants to hear the whole thing being built.
First thing we do is call a loop around. We'll come in around the other side. We'll put the other side at the end, probably.
Hello?
All right.
I heard that click.
So now there's a three-way call to the loop around and the first participant, Sarge. At this point, I'm going to start using a procedure, just like the one Clay used, to add that person earlier. The first step is to receive a call waiting call. When I hear the beep, then dial the number of the next person to be added. At some point, the call waiting will drop. Then I can flash to bring that person into the conference, and then rinse and repeat all the way until the last person is added. This can be done ad infinitum, but as a practical matter, you really didn't want to go more than 20 people or so, otherwise it just got unwieldy. Another thing that would sometimes happen is that the stack of three-way conference bridges, which did have some amplification in them, would sometimes go into oscillation. At some point in the building of this, you'll hear me remove the last caller and then call him back just to get a different combination of trunks and three-way bridges in an effort to reduce the oscillation which starts to happen. At the very end, after the last person is on, I add one more participant, which is the other side of that telephone company loop around we called at the beginning. And in that manner, the end of the conference is connected sound-wise to the beginning of the conference, mitigating that phenomenon we heard earlier where one end couldn't hear what the other was doing. Anyway, here goes.
All right, I believe we're all right.
What's this? Hold on, I got a call.
Okay.
That was one of the conference people wanted to know when they were going to get back on.
Gosh, he sounds far away.
He just has a low line.
I hate those.
Hello?
Hey, Garth.
Yeah.
We're rebuilding the conference.
Oh, okay, great.
Stand by.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Who do we have?
Garth. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, Moon Unit.
Yeah.
We're rebuilding the conference right now. Stand by.
Okay.
How you doing?
Doing great.
This whole thing is really neat.
Isn't it?
It really is.
Whoops. Oops. Crap. Not this. Not
Don't
this.
you love this?
I just love it.
What is that?
It's called a noise.
Well, I could have told you it was noise.
Start getting that crap.
Isn't that fun?
Oh, fantastic. Did you guys not have this when you were building it the first time?
No, we didn't have it then.
You was very lucky. Moon Unit,
Yes.
I'm going to have to call you right back.
Okay.
Hang up, I'll call you right back.
All right.
There he goes.
Okay.
All right, now hopefully we can add somebody else without too much trouble.
No more hum.
This will tell.
Everybody closer now.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello, Cersei?
Yeah.
We're rebuilding the conference. You're on.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, they're rebuilding it, Susan.
Hold on a second.
Who's that?
This is me.
Who's me?
Me, Moon
Me
Unit.
can be a bunch of people.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, Little Duck?
Yeah.
We're rebuilding the conference. You'll be on in a second.
Okay.
Not me.
Nobody
I
here.
hope this oscillation stops.
I'm back.
Did you have any oscillation when you were building this before? Just lucky, I guess. Well, we'll see what happens. It may get worse.
Hey.
Hey. Hey, Duck. Who's that? Cersei. Who? Yeah. Hey.
Who's that, Susan?
Duck. Hello?
Hi, LM? LM?
Yeah.
We're trying to rebuild the conference. Hold on a minute.
Okay. Garfield.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Hey.
Hey. It brings a whole different meaning to the word Garth.
Guys.
Hey. Okay.
Don't threaten us.
Hello?
Snugs?
Yeah?
We're rebuilding the conference. You'll be on in a second.
Okay.
The first is on Tuesday.
I graduated. I wish tomorrow was the first.
Well, I do too, kinda.
Hey,
gang.
I'm worrying at the first, because if tomorrow is the first... Or it's the 31st.
Let's everybody.
Phone.
Who are you calling?
It's me, Snugs.
You
caught me right in the... Huh?
How come we're calling Snug?
Hey, guys.
You guys
Anybody
caught...
here play Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I
Maybe
have,
you
and
can
it's
help me out.
boring.
Depends.
Okay, I'm on the bridge of the heart of
Somebody's got the radio on.
Oh, well, you can forget getting any information from me.
You
Garfield.
didn't get that far.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. Tell everybody, okay?
Didn't even get the
Okay.
basic fish, huh?
I read the book in order to figure it out.
You're no help. Read it to me.
Oh, you gotta read the book, folks.
Who's all on right now?
Moon Unit.
Huh?
Moon
I got
Unit.
the book.
Who does?
Me.
Who's me?
JFK
Moon
does.
Unit.
Oh, gosh, how am I going to do
Let me
this?
boot up my...
What? I can hear Sarge good,
The only
too.
problem
Sounds like he's at the bottom of a well.
You can't
Who?
tell, Moon Unit.
What?
You gotta
I hear
decide for
everybody
your
fine.
dad.
Yeah.
Now that there's nobody to add for a while, I'm going to add one more thing. The corresponding number of the 525 loop around. This will make it possible for the first person on the conference to better hear the most recently added person. Toward the end of this segment, you'll hear me dropping off the loop around and then trying to add another person which gets a busy signal. There's also an unexpected call from Les who asks if indeed we are using the loop around because he found it busy.
What?
You gotta
I hear
decide for
everybody
your
fine.
dad.
Yeah.
Off the phone 30 minutes ago.
Let's tell him, y'all.
Mm.
Hey.
Hey.
Thought I got hung up.
No.
Nope, you're still here.
Where is Mike?
No, my
Hey,
brother took it.
Are you still here?
Huh?
Hey, Garth.
Yeah.
I'll be back again in a second, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I was right. It was on the floor.
What I'd like to know is who that was.
That was LM.
Who
Oh,
was?
okay.
God, I recognize your voice.
The what?
That was LM.
The one that was
Kind
on
of
Hitchhiker?
confusing, huh,
Yeah,
guys?
that Sarge wants Hitchhiker.
No, who was the one?
It's like calling everybody with
Who
the
just
same
got
name
off?
and then saying it. John!
Okay, I'm back, you guys.
Oh,
Right now. He's gonna do something.
Do what?
I'm back.
Okay. Hey.
Who's that?
LM.
LM,
Hi.
Carol, Midnight. Hey. Hey, LM.
Now who? We have LM. We have
Snugs.
who?
Snugs.
Snugs. Hey, Snugs.
You got
Hey,
Moon
who's
Unit.
this?
Moon unit. We've got
We have
Cirrus.
lurking moon unit, yes.
Cersei?
Yes.
Okay, hey. Well, we're adding up now.
I was at work one day and some lady bought a pack of gum for 39 cents, altogether with tax. She gives the lady a $100 bill.
Yeah, buddy.
I'll take the $100 bill.
Now, why does Ducky sound so far away?
I'm right here.
Yeah, now see, you
Well,
don't...
Ducky's in a hole.
Oh, okay.
Where's KW at? Where's who at? KW.
Somebody just got knocked off, it sounded like. Who else here?
Me.
Yeah,
Evan.
that's a universal language.
Evan.
Who?
They're gone.
They've left us out here all alone.
Hold on a second.
We're just in a little brown box. You know,
We're gonna be.
And we
This
don't
is
get
weird.
our dimes back.
We don't
It
get our
actually
dimes back.
oscillates more. It oscillates more when I unplug my
Never
mouthpiece.
mind, don't answer that.
Do you know what will happen if you do that to me?
You'll drop us, I know.
Yeah, don't do that to me.
I thought you had gotten knocked off.
What's that?
I thought you had gotten knocked off.
No, I'm here. Thank you for checking.
actually, he's just hanging on.
Hey?
Who is this?
Who's who?
Yeah, you gotta say who's who. Don't
We're
we?
all here.
Wait.
We don't know who we are.
Women, sound off. Little duck.
We did lose one.
Who?
LM.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, you're a woman.
Lady Midnight, you're here. That's
You need to say hey.
Yeah, I did.
Cleo.
No.
No. Who's who? This is KW.
Garf and KW sound alike.
They do.
We do.
Yes.
They do?
We have broadcast voice.
That's right, we have broadcast voice.
There you go. Are you a journalism? Yeah, right. Whatever I mean.
Uh-huh.
Came close to going into radio, but decided not to.
Hey, that's what I'd like to go into. I've got my degree in it.
Ah, good. Are you ready to work for $3 an hour in
Yeah, that's the
Podunk?
reason why I'm not in it.
That's right.
Who's got his degree in it? Who is it?
I do. Garfield.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah. It's done me about as much good as well.
Hey, Garth.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Chambly.
Where in Chambly?
Embry
about-
Hills.
In a house.
Where?
Embry Hills. Between 85 and 285.
That sound good?
In a house, yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Are y'all using the 525 loop around?
Yes, we are.
Oh, good.
Using it to tie a big conference in a big circle.
Okay. Well, very good.
Alrighty.
Hang up.
Hang up.
For you. For some
Well, I
reason.
can hear you.
Okay.
I don't talk very loud.
Doing a very good job. Who is that?
Who's who?
Who is you? Now, wait a minute now. Oh, God. I'm over here picturing who I'm talking to and don't know. Yeah. Now, who was that I was just talking to?
Someone?
Now, wait a minute. Hold on, Sarge. Yeah. No, you're Ducky. I know Ducky now.
Okay.
Okay. Now, wait. Now, who are you?
Cersei.
There you go. There's Cersei. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cersei's about 5'2".
Whew, boy.
Took you long enough, okay?
Yeah, now that this is... I need my drink.
Go get some tea.
Lady Midnight, where's my tea?
No, we're
Sorry.
not having tea today. We're having lemonade tonight.
Lemon... Oh, yuck. I can't drink lemonade.
Rose.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh no, what was that? Who just got disconnected?
Uh-oh.
Who got gone?
Not me.
Everybody say their name.
Nobody.
Garf.
Moon unit.
Sarge.
LM.
Roadrunner. Night Runner. Whatever those names.
How are they anyway?
Who? The Amigas?
The Amigas, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I get them play with one of my friends' Amigas down at school. And
You ought to buy mine.
Neato.
You ought to buy mine.
I oughta?
Yeah.
If I had however much they cost, I probably would.
Who started Garfy?
What about KW?
KW.
This is KW. I'm popping in and out because I'm trying to add somebody on
There
here.
you go.
He's building Lego.
Kill the music.
Turn off the radio.
Turn off the radio.
Your radio's exploding.
Yeah, who's doing that?
The radio.
You're drowning of your house.
I can certainly find out.
Please turn down the radio.
Turn off the radio.
Turn down your radio, please.
Never mind. Could you bring that pad back in here? Oh, never mind. Never mind.
There's an echo. Yep. Turn off your radio. When are you going to get your copy of ProTerm?
I think Cleo dropped off.
Hold on a minute.
I have Procom.
Huh?
I have Procom.
No,
ProTerm is a different
Ah.
Oh,
Who was
sorry.
the one that said that about ProTerm?
Me, Sarge.
Oh, okay. You mind if I call you sometime Tuesday?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. It's okay.
Sarge?
Sarge.
Who's Sarge?
Huh? Him. Right here.
You may.
Is everybody as confused as I am? Whoa, here comes another call.
Who are we adding on?
Dr. Hook?
Hello?
Hook.
Somebody just screwed it up.
What happened?
What happened?
This conference can't get any larger now.
Why?
Because somebody screwed me up. Nothing I can do about it. The call waiting was dropped prematurely while I was still dialing his number. As a result, we went into funny mode. You can tell because as I dialed the last digit...
Is everybody as confused as I am? Whoa, here comes another call.
You see, everybody on the conference can hear this call to Dr. Hook, and I haven't even flashed yet. Funny mode does that. Now, Dr. Hook, if he hangs up, will cause me to completely lose the conference. And even if he stays on, I can't get any more call waitings. My line is busy. So this conference now cannot get any bigger. If there's one more person that wants to get on, I can't add him. It's kind of like being arrested because I can now make one phone call, literally. Why? Because of the unwanted bridge bug. Do I really want to explain this? Okay, I will. When the call waiting hung up while I was dialing Dr. Hook's number, we went into funny mode. In funny mode, I am on the B side of a call hold bridge calling Dr. Hook, with the A side, i.e. the rest of the conference, connected through, so everybody can hear each other. Now I can still use three-way calling to make one more call. If I'm smart, I'll call the loop around, tying the thing in a circle. But if for any reason I drop that call to the loop around, you know what's going to happen.
Trapped.
Try again.
Trapped.
Yeah. And at that point, if Dr. Hook hangs up...
Well, obviously everything wasn't completely back to normal.
In any event, funny mode has just ruined my whole day.
If anybody dropped off, is there any way for it to continue beyond that one person?
We would now have to, we'd have to start over completely.
Hey, Evan, you still have a few people with three-way calling that could add on a few numbers, you know?
Well, if they know the numbers of these people, then yeah, anybody here is welcome to add on with three-way calling. I can't believe somebody did that to me.
Snugs on?
So, Garf,
Yo.
you want to leave the 2GS versus Amiga discussion on chat?
Yeah.
Why?
Because other people aren't interested in that.
Kill the radio.
Kill the radio.
Boy, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Here we are in 1987, having the same problem that was first witnessed in 1970 on my first night of a clear conference. This time I've actually built a clear conference by myself, using the technology that I figured out. Now, this whole thing was my work. I am the mastermind behind this whole thing, and strangely, I'm not proud of it, even though it's arguably one of my two greatest hacking triumphs. But I'm not interested in hacking triumphs. I just thought the system was really cool. I apologize for this group of recordings being so hard to understand. It's very hard to explain. It's a lot of information. And if all you did was enjoy the sounds and the clicks, that's fine. But all the information you need to understand it is in here. And if you don't care to, hey, I understand. Well, anyway, that's it for this little series. There are other recordings of #1 ESS bugs, which I hope to get on here someday.